If you enjoy this type of content, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to this channel. It will help us tremendously to continue sharing. Thank you. Have you ever paused to think about what makes you aware, like aware of your thoughts, aware of the world around you, or that deep sense of wonder at existence? Consciousness is the spark that brings everything to life for us. Some believe that the universe is conscious, not just conscious, but consciousness itself. We then, as conscious beings, are the universe experiencing itself through billions of viewpoints, over and over for millennia. In this line of thought, we are emanations of this unified field of consciousness. In attempting to explain this, we call it God, Source, the One or the Monad, even the ground of being. All terms for the ineffable, the thing that we all sense is there in some form but are totally unable to grasp the entire scope of what it actually is and means. It's the foundation of how we experience the world, and in secular spirituality, consciousness is the key to connecting with the source of all things. In our previous videos, we explored secular spirituality as a way to find awe and purpose, and how symbolic figures like the cosmic Christ can guide us without doctrine or dogma. Today, we'll dive into consciousness as the basis for it all, defining it clearly, so we're on the same page, and exploring how it reveals the ineffable as a unified source we're all part of. Let's start with the basics. What is consciousness? At its core, consciousness is the subjective experience of being aware, meaning what it's like to feel, think, or perceive. It's that inner light allowing you to know you're here, reading these words, or feeling joy in a moment of connection. As philosopher and author Iain McGilchrist puts it, consciousness is irreducible, primordial, and omnipresent, not a thing, but a creative process. In secular spirituality, our consciousness isn't a gift from God. It is God, or at least in essence, a part of God. It's a natural part of being human, the way we experience the ground of being. To get us on the same page, let's break it down into levels. First, there's basic or sensory consciousness, the awareness of immediate sensations like the warmth of the sun or the sound of a bird. John Vervaeke describes this as relevance realization, where your mind filters what's important in the moment. We share this kind of consciousness with animals, and it's the starting point for feeling connected to the world. Then there's consciousness of the self, the awareness of I as an individual yet connected entity, that voice in your head reflecting on life. Vervaeke notes that consciousness is bound up with this process, helping us navigate meaning in a complex world. Finally, expanded or unified consciousness is a deeper state of awareness where boundaries fade and you feel part of something larger. Rupert Sheldrake's idea of morphic resonance suggests consciousness as a unified field, where patterns resonate across time and space, linking us in ways we don't fully understand. Similar to a broadcast that we are tuned into the minute our soul enters the body. Now, to clear up fuzziness, let's distinguish consciousness from related terms. Awareness is a spotlight, focusing on something specific, like noticing a friend's smile. Consciousness is the light itself, the broader being that makes awareness possible. The mind is the content, thoughts, memories, emotions, while consciousness is the container, the emanation, allowing experience. The unconscious, as Carl Jung described it, is a hidden layer that influences us, still a part of the whole but unrecognized. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So how does our individuated consciousness approach the ineffable, this ground of being. It sees it as a unified field of awareness, where we are conscious emanations, expressions of the source, nothing existing apart from it. In secular spirituality, the brain is like a receiver, picking up the unified field of this ground of being. Consciousness is not something the brain produces on its own. The reason for this distinction is that if the brain creates consciousness, then our consciousness cannot exist apart from the body. This would basically be annihilationism, or ceasing to exist upon death. We have no irrefutable evidence either way, but most spiritual communities insist that our consciousness persists after physical death. The ground of being is all-inclusive. It's in and through everything, like a field of energy we tune into. Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance explains this as patterns imposing order on events, suggesting that consciousness links us in a non-local way, much like quantum mechanics entanglement theory. Deepak Chopra echoes this when he says, "Consciousness is the ground of being, and everything else is a manifestation of it." We're not separate from the source. We're waves in its ocean, conscious parts of the whole. Rumi says, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop." This view can explain what some see as supernatural phenomena, like ES or intuition, as natural abilities we may have lost or forgotten. It's tuning into the field, not magic. When reading religious texts, people often resort to literalism, or taking the text as being literal in a tangible, irrefutable, or historical way. Literalism turns concepts and archetypes into invisible beings, gods that inhabit the heavens or underworld and preside over the affairs of men, turning these concepts into performance-based systems where some people are accepted and some are rejected, devising religious frameworks of reward and punishment. These institutions divide humanity into groups, us and them, saved and unsaved, good and evil. This us versus them mindset creates tension and hostility between religions and even individuals. It has been the source of much of the violence that has ravaged humanity over its history. The ground of being is not a person and therefore non-judgmental. Instead, consciousness reveals the ground of being as the only true unifying source, healing fear of judgment by demonstrating we're all connected. Mystical experiences, those wild moments of oneness, fit here too. They often arise from either meditation or group activities like singing, chanting, or dancing, which release endorphins for euphoria, oxytocin for bonding, and reduce cortisol for calm. This enhances spiritual experiences in a positive way, creating a sense of flow and connection without exclusivity. It can happen at a concert or meditation circle, anywhere individuals gather together, not just religious settings. Some people experience visions, utterances, or even revelations, but these are personal experiences valid for you, but not necessarily a universal truth, giving the individual a higher status or authority over others. As Vivek says, consciousness is bound up with relevance realization, helping us see meaning in these moments. With this understanding, let's touch on practical applications. A better understanding of consciousness helps heal religious trauma, like fear of judgment or being ostracized from a group, by revealing we're emanations of the source, connected, not condemned. Consciousness can also foster unity. When we come to the realization that all humans are a part of the whole and that we have never been separated from our source, which some label as God, and that it's impossible to be separated from God or each other because we are truly one. Jesus had this revelation and mentioned it often, saying things like, I and my Father are one, and you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. I believe he understood this concept of oneness. He referred to his source or ground of being as the Father. Father means a progenitor, the originator of something. He never used other terms like Yahweh or the Almighty that suggest a being that is separate from the rest of creation. It was always Father, or the generic Theos, which simply means God. Recognizing we're all receivers of the same field of consciousness counters division by recognizing that we are not separated, that there are no individual deities to be worshipped or feared. When we see this, we also see that spiritual texts are the inventions of men attempting to explain aspects of the natural world we live in, or the aspects of human behavior and its consequences. They're most helpful when we understand them as metaphorical and allegorical, pointing to different manifestations of the ground of being. Jesus said he only taught in parables. He consistently and purposely used metaphor and allegory in his stories to emphasize and illustrate the concepts he was trying to convey. Think about mythology. Almost every culture has their own, and most use the same archetypes over and over, like Dyaus, Zeus, Jupiter, even Thor. In different cultures, these were seen as the Sky Father, the omnipotent ruler over humanity. This is no different than the Yahweh character of Judaism or Allah of Islam. These represent our projection of human characteristics onto the forces of nature that we were trying to explain. Forces that are just one perspective of source. These stories, or myths, were intended to transmit information through millennia before writing was available to us. These gods and many others became the pantheons of mythology, not a literal assembly of gods, but archetypes that carry information. In the end, consciousness is the basis of everything, the receiver dialing us into the ground of being, the ineffable source we're all emanations of. It makes the universe matter because we only experience it through consciousness. As McGilchrist notes, consciousness is a creative process, opening us to mystery without dogma. Let's embrace this awareness to heal, connect, and find purpose. What's one way you can tune into it today? Thanks for joining me.